Can I
like,
just
you
have a
know,
couple
and then you give them a
bites?
bunch of like dietary restrictions. Like, I'm vegan and I'm allergic to a bunch of shit. Like, you good with that?
He's
Can you
like,
accommodate?
so is it still vegan if I spit it out of my mouth into your mouth? You're like, hell yeah.
Fucking all baby bird and shit.
Yeah,
Fucking what the bro, where
You're-
what?
you're just like, yeah, man, this fucking this is real.
What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome back to the Punk Rock Review Podcast. I've got a very special guest all the way from way up north in Canada, right?
Ooh. Yeah, Canada,
Yeah, dude.
Edmonton, Alberta.
That's crazy, man. This is Graham, who sings for Homefront and previously was with Wednesday Night Heroes. So yeah, man, welcome to the show. Thanks for your time today. I appreciate it, bud.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Heck yeah. I want to start off immediately telling people, like, if you guys are a fan of Homefront, first, if you're not a fan, it's like, because maybe you don't know, I don't know. Everybody knows the bands they know. I mean, you kind of hear about them how you hear about them.
Mhm.
But it's like a, like post-punk, but like high energy post-punk with like little droplets of other punk rock incorporated, a little bit of hardcore here and there. It's really, really fun music. I like immediately enjoyed it when I heard it. So
Sick.
yeah, dude. So what I was actually going to say was go see them live, because boy, I tell you, man, your live show is fun. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I think when we we came up with the idea of doing Homefront, I think the idea was definitely having two different things, two different beasts. There's like the record, like the album version, and then there's the live version. So I feel like they're two different vibes. Like on record, we definitely it's kind of like sometimes I like to think of it as like listening to music that you can throw on your headphones like in the middle of the night when you're just like chilling, or like if you want to just like, you're on a long drive or whatever. Like there's a lot more like nuances in the recordings, and everything's developed a little bit more. Whereas
Okay.
live we got we have a live band, so it's me and Clint who are on the records, but live it's like me and Clint, and then we have Warren on drums, and then we have like Brandy on bass, and Ian, who's a guitar player, and those two were in a band called Rhythm of Cruelty. They're still going, but that was kind of like we kind of knew like we could pull these guys in. They're already used to playing with each other. I'm used to playing with Warren because he was in a punk band I was in before Homefront called No Problem. So, and then I've known Clint for years, so we're all old friends. Like, so it's getting on stage together. I had to kind of get used to playing with maybe Brandy and Ian, but like other than that, it was just like, and they're fucking so solid. So yeah, it's a live. We're all able to kind of just like stretch our wings a little bit, and I think just kind of I'm used to playing a certain way. So I think like when I first started with Homefront, I was still kind of in the, maybe more of the hardcore punk vibe. So I was just like, yeah, like fucking shirt off. Like, and I was like, okay, we got to dial this back. Like, let's, like it doesn't need to be chains and sweat and stuff like that. Let's just, kind of dial it back just a little bit. And then, so now we kind of have our vibe, and now I feel like it works.
So I would wholeheartedly agree with the having two different kind of vibes with the sound, because
Yep.
I've had people that said that they weren't super into it, and then they saw you play live, and then they went back and they were like, it doesn't sound the same, but I like it more now. And I've done that with a handful of bands where I liked them okay or whatever. Maybe I didn't like them at all, and I saw them live and was like, holy crap. Now I just happened to be a fan of your music before I saw you guys play. I live in Houston, so I traveled to go see you.
Hell yeah,
don't typically
Houston.
do that for.
Give it up for Ghetto Boys.
Let's go, dude. Hell yeah.
Fifth Ward.
Yeah. Oh, dude. I lived in Third Ward for a long time. That shit was.
Hell yeah.
It was
fucking tight,
dude. It was fun, but it was a lot at times.
Oh
but,
yeah, I know. Speaking of, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, you're good.
As soon as I hear Houston, I'm like, hell yeah. you know, like our driver who took us on this last tour is named Juan Carlos. I don't know if you know him, but he's an Austin guy, playing Impalers and Strutter,
No.
a bunch of, anyway, he's a legend on the road, freak in the sheets, legend on the streets. But anyway,
That's awesome.
he turned us on to, like, yeah, we were like listening to Fat Pat
Oh, let's go,
just
dude.
like, yeah, dude. So
I've
big
got
shout,
a
and also Liberty and Justice who played with
dude.
us in Austin. They're Houston boys, so
Love that band.
they keep trying to get us to come out there. And obviously on the punk side, Really
Yeah.
Red is one of my all-time
Oh,
favorite
yeah.
Texas bands. So
Yeah, dude, Really Red's one that honestly I didn't even get into until much later in life, like last 2 years maybe.
dude,
I
they're so fucking sick.
I'm like backtracking on my punk rock history. I got into it in the 90s. I never really looked behind me. Really
Okay.
Red's a great band, or was.
So anyway, I've got to send a lot of love to Houston. So I didn't mean to
Hell
throw
yeah.
you off
Oh,
on
no.
that. I just wanted to take a small little
Dude, that's
chunk
amazing.
to give a tip of the cap to a city that I love. So
Anybody that wants to like shout out and show some love to Houston, bro, you'll never hear a complaint from me because I've been here my entire life. I will almost certainly never relocate. I lived in Austin for like a year and a half, but came right back home. I've only traveled out of the state of Texas 4 times. I'll be leaving again twice this year. Yeah, it was all last year.
You're like, what's the point?
Well,
I got everything here. I got the sheets down the street, and
dude, that's absolutely the case. It nothing really I need outside of Texas, but
yeah, cheap
there's
smokes.
Oh, dude, man, I smoked for a long time. I still like the smell of cigarettes. Is that weird?
Yeah.
I haven't smoked a cigarette in like 10 years, but I smoked all throughout my like late teens, all the way through like 31 years old. And then I quit because I had kids and I just didn't want to keep smoking around kids. And then every now and then I'll be out somewhere and I'll smell them and be like, dude, I really want a Camel. And my wife is like,
it's just
hold
like
up.
a small tear comes out of your eye.
Yeah.
You're gonna taste, mother.
Yeah, man, your stage presence is something to behold, man. I was so, I don't know, man, this may sound corny to some people, but I had like this big grin on my face the whole set because I was up on the top on the balcony because I wanted to film it, and that's what I get out of shows at this age. I don't like to go and get in the mosh pit often anymore. I like to get up and film it, and later on I'll go revisit it. Maybe I'll watch it, maybe I'll edit it or something. But I just like to do that because it captures this moment in time that I can show my kids and whatnot. But
right,
I had a lot of fun just watching it. I will say there was a tinge of like, maybe jealousy is the right word. Even like I wanted to be down on the floor and be like, man, this shit is awesome, man. It was so fun. So
what did you guys? So go ahead.
No, go ahead. Whatever your thought
I was just gonna say, like, for me, I was gonna say I mean, first of all, that's a wonderful compliment. Thank you for saying that. But I think for us, it's just like when you realize like the song structures and kind of like how we started the band. It definitely comes from me and Clint. Like Clint had hit me up during the pandemic about doing kind of like a electronic kind of project and doing something along the lines of like New Order. And I think that when that was kind of the jump off point, but then I think we started really getting into, later Angelic Upstarts records, like, like songs like Waiting and Hating and Woman in Disguise. And then we'd like listen to later Blitz and like, even like Coxbar songs. Yeah. And like Coxbar songs, like Out on an Island and stuff that sounds like, like to me, you can see that there's like they were kind of going into the British new wave vibe, but they still came at it from a punk perspective.
Right.
And I think that was kind of our vibe, was like, we want to do a synth project. We want to do like, a lot of drum machines and synths and stuff like that. And be big on melodies, but it's coming from like almost like an Oi, like British Oi perspective, and especially British Oi going into UK new wave. So stuff like OMD, like Human League. When you listen to a lot of those British groups and you realize that they all come from punk as well, it kind of just, it's like, I mean, even like Buzzcocks, one of my all-time favorite bands. And Pete Shelley has the solo record with like Homo Sapien and stuff like that on it. And you're just like, this is such a great like new wave track, but it's also because it still has the energy of punk like with it.
Yeah.
So live, that's the vibe, is like, because we're now able to attack it with live instruments and stuff like that, with the synths and drum machines, and then everyone's playing over top of them. I think people can just like I think the hugeness of the sound kind of can bring people in to want to sing along and just like, if it's the same, like if you're driving in your car by yourself on your way to work or something like that, and you're listening to our record and you're singing along, we want that to be the vibe when you come to the show, that you're like with your pals and just like, and you don't have to crowd kill each other, but it's just like, it's fun to just everyone get together and sing the tunes and
It makes you want to
you know.
dance a little bit. Like it makes you want
Yeah,
to
fuck yeah.
like not, it just makes you want
We
to
like to
move
get
around.
nasty. We
Let's
like to get
go.
funky. We
It's
like
just
people getting down.
Look, man. Okay. The state of the world is pretty gnarly right now, and punk
Yep.
rock as a whole, hardcore, they're pretty rough around the edges. If you want to,
Mhm.
it's nice to have something that is a little more like sonically positive, if you'll take that and understand
Right.
what that means. Like, it just, you hear it, you go, okay, this isn't necessarily like doom and gloom, and it's not, super fast, like fuck you, I hate authority type music. It's just
Right.
like, it's just music that comes from the roots of punk rock, but it's a different subgenre. I really, I can't tell you how much I love it.
Honestly, I think that over the last, 10, 15 years, there's been a lot of good hardcore punk bands. Like, in Canada, there was, the band Shit. There's like those oi bands like from Montreal, like Béton Armé and Puffer. And then
Yes,
you have like
Puffer's
in our
awesome.
neck of the woods, we have Languid, and we have bands like Bootlicker and Chain Whip. So like
Dude,
up in
Chain Whip.
Canada, like I was starting to feel like, okay, man, like punk, like gnarly punk is kind of getting, the bases are being covered. Like
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, of course we could add to it. And I mean, that music I love so much, but at the same time, I also kind of feel like, well, why don't we add a different flavor so that we can play, like, it's not weird for us to play with Bootlicker, or it's weird to play with
Oh, I would love that. I would
Bayton
absolutely watch that
Arme, or
show.
like,
Yeah.
and like when we're down in the States, like, like when we were in Austin, it's like, you can play with an electronic band like Gata, and
Yeah.
then you can also play with Liberty and Justice, and you can play with the Chisel from England or High Vis or whatever. And it's just like, it's not
God,
weird
all those bands are
because,
so good.
right. And like, so it's just like, it's all coming from like, the last bunch of years, there's been so many good flavors to it. And like I was thinking about this the one time when we played a bunch of shows with Puffer, and I was watching them, and same with Poison Ruin from Philadelphia. Like I was watching Poison Ruin, and I was thinking too, like, man, if I was a kid, like when I grew up, like a lot of oi music was like, I'm not trying to throw a lot of shade, but it was fucking dumb ass music. Like there was a lot of dumb street punk bands that were just like,
Yeah.
like the tempos were slow, everything was like, oh man, this
I
is
mean,
brutal. But you were kind of just like, it's all
yeah.
you had. It's all you had. Like it
Right,
was all the
right.
shit that was going on. But now I think this is like, I think the pandemic kind of opened the door to seeing like a lot of bands spread their wings and
Dude,
do stuff more creative, because they didn't always have to just like keep hammering the same things. Like okay, for instance, like Warthog from New York is like one of the best live D beat bands. Like they fucking shred. And in my mind, I'm like, well, why would I want to do that? They're already doing that. They're already killing
right.
it live. So it's just like, okay, well, let's switch gears. Like, what's something that people, I know that a lot of people listen to this shit. So why not just change it up a little bit and just bring our own flavor to it? Plus, we're from the north, so when you have like, the cold temperatures that we have, having like cold synths and cold drum machines is just like,
It makes
that's
sense,
our
right?
that's our
Yeah.
bread and butter, baby. Like
Yeah.
it's just like that kind of, and when it comes to like live stuff, we come from Edmonton, Alberta, so we're like descendants of bands like SNFU and
Good
tour,
band.
but their live show is like, you watch them as a little kid, you're like, okay, you got to step your game up. Like you can't fuck around. Like you can't just be like, because the kids in our neck of the woods were kind of like, they demanded they demanded a show. Like they
Right.
want to see, they don't want to see like some guys just like, you know knuckle dragging and staring at their fucking shitty guitar with like a bunch of fucking lame ass
Look,
stickers on it.
I like that
they want to
too,
see a guy like
but
fucking going ape shit and like moving around. You know what I mean?
well, the live show is incredibly important, and I actually have a theory about what you were just as soon as you said it. I haven't had anybody bring this up yet to where I could even voice this theory outside of like talking with my buddies or whatever. But I think that the old street punk music and oi music from, let's say, I don't know, 2000s on back, a lot of it was afraid of melody. They were just like,
Of
all
course.
right, we have a reputation to maintain. And I don't even know that it was necessary. They were just like, no, we like it. People like what we do. We're going to keep doing it. Right.
Hmm.
Why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type shit.
Totally.
But the pandemic, it got a lot of, like, for lack of a better word, tough guy type dudes
Oh, for
digging
sure.
through their record crates, right? And when you start listening to music that you don't normally listen to or that you haven't listened to in a long while, it'll reinvigorate you into writing some stuff that's a little more. You'll if you're not writing it because you're going to go play a show, you don't know yet. You're in the middle of a pandemic.
Totally.
So you're writing it because you want to write it and you want to play it and possibly hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's time for you to come bring it to the masses, it is music that you wanted to write, not what you thought people wanted you to write. And I feel like that might be why we have all these crazy subgenres of punk popping up right now.
For sure. I mean, I think a big shout out has to go to the fact that like during the pandemic, people were online. There was a lot more like you could like share stuff a lot easier. So it was kind of like the weird sharing of ideas. Like we'd be seeing like Chubby and the Gang and like
Bro, I love that band.
like and Chisel, and like we'd see like those records coming out, and like our friend from Toronto, Jonah Falco, he produced Chubby, he produced Chisel, he
Nice.
produced High Vis. So we're
Oh,
seeing all
wow.
this stuff, and then he produced Homefront. So like when we were able to like just take in all the stuff that's going on, it's just like, hey man, like there's a lot of good shit going on right now. Like everyone's being super creative. Like we need to, like if we're gonna do this project in a two-man band kind of situation, then we gotta like we really gotta like don't rush it. You know what I mean? Like there's no point to rush it because it's not like we had a gig down we didn't even know if we were ever gonna play live.
Right, right.
When we did this band, it was just like, okay, well let's get together, me and Clint, and I'm like, here's the first song that came to me when you came. Actually, it was funny. He sent me like he's like, hey, I'll send you like a drum machine loop. And I was like, okay. Like I've never worked with electronics, but Clint has, because he was in a band called Shout Out Out. And they were like,
I've heard that name somewhere.
yeah, they were
I'm not
great.
sure where.
Yeah, they're great. And they were like an electro band that would be like two drummers, tons of modular synths going, like basses. Like it was so when you watch them play, it's like watching like a machine working with all these tracks going, and you're just like, whoa,
That's
this is
awesome.
really cool. And so knowing that he's played live instruments over top of like samples and loops and shit like that, that kind of gets my brain going, being like, well, why can't you do like a punk band version of that? Like why can't you have a little bit more, make the beats a little bit more driving, have that the floor tom going, like just like why can't you bring it? Like I mean, I love seeing footage of like those like early Joy Division and seeing like when they were like a punk band, and just like seeing them kind of make those changes, and you can start watching there's more gear starting to show up on stage, and
Right.
and you're
Yes.
just like, and it's just like because they're creative guys, and it's just like you start to see that. And as someone who sees a bunch of like knuckle dragger bands, which I do have a soft spot for, I'm
Right.
like, well, there's a place for that, and there's also a place for this, and I don't mind. Like to me, my world is it's all of it. Like I can listen to it all, because to me it's just like it's the attitude. If the attitude is there, the
100%.
energy fucking comes, and I don't give a fuck if it sounds like like if it's like Agnostic Front or if it's Joy Division. I can still have it in my same rotation. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude. Yeah. I mean, that's yes, 100%. I oddly enough, I'm speaking with Roger from Agnostic Front on
Oh
Monday.
hell
I'm
yeah!
very, very, very excited about that one.
Tell him I love. Thank you for making Victim in Pain.
I'm telling you, man, that dude is responsible for a lot of stuff that I love. Yeah, man. I think that art is creative people will find a way to what's the word I'm looking for here? Be like not inventive, but like come up with interesting ways to say and do things, whatever their current predicament is. And I think that COVID, while a horrible, nasty thing, was also the birth of a lot of beauty. And blending music, you can listen to it and go, oh no, I hear a Coxbar type riff
Totally.
in there somewhere, or oh, I hear Joy Division in this stuff, and it'll get a guy like me to listen to bands like Joy Division
Okay.
and The Cure, who bands I've never really been interested in until recently.
I mean, the other thing that's funny about it too is like, yeah, there is like the intellectual side of things. So yeah, it is like painting with the watercolors. But when you get to know us, you'll see if you look deep through those watercolors, you realize it's just a stick man with big tits, you know.
Let's go, dude. So bathroom graffiti.
Exactly. It's
Truck
like
stop fucking graffiti, and you get back and like, oh, I thought it was some cultural. No, dude, we're still dick and fart jokes.
Exactly. It's still the same shit. So it's just like, you know, I think
For a good time, call home front. God damn it.
Oh hell yeah, buddy.
Dude,
so
that's the new record title.
Oh yeah, buddy. It's gonna be fucking for nasty ass bitches, man. But
that's
like
awesome.
the whole vibe for us was always just like, you know, like we are who we are. And it's just like we, you know, like we use this style of music, we're able to say things like we can still be political, we can still be like you know, like talking about like, you know, our own personal like hell, I guess, that we can all relate to, like all the stuff like grief and loss and depression, like that's all stuff that's still in our lyrics. But it's like, and all the anger about like being in a certain, like, you know, in our in a place and having like, you know, oligarchs and billionaires holding all of us at ransom for fucking, like, you know, it's just like, so actually, to go back to the thing you're talking about, COVID, one of the things that I thought was also really interesting, not only was the music really cool, but I also think that during that time, because everything was shut down, it was also the first time you saw rich people shitting their pants. Like it was just like, oh my God, like,
dude,
oh, like we got,
yes.
and it was just like seeing them go on and on. It's like, oh my fucking skiing vacation. It's just like, after a while, it's like, buddy, fuck off. Like, I don't give a shit.
Oh
like,
man, those people tripped
and
out.
it was just, and it was like up in Canada, they were like, buddy, we're taking to the trucks, we're going, and like it was just funny because it's just like, to me, you see like I guess it was just kind of like, it was interesting to see that businesses and the whole consumerism of capitalism, like in that huge way, had to kind of take a step back. And like, I mean, they still ended up soaking everyone with groceries and everything. Once everything once everything was finished, we all got fucked over big time. But I'm just saying, there was a second where you would go through your city and it was quiet, and you're like going for more runs. You're like maybe doing more physical activity. You're hanging out. You know, you're just like just spending a little bit more time by yourself. And that was like, I feel that kind of introspection led to a lot of great music and art and stuff like that. And that was kind of that was kind of why I feel that was such a interesting time, you know?
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. I've looked back on it, like I lost a friend.
Yeah.
And I got very, 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 very close to like having, I almost died, man. It was bad. I had it for almost 2.5 months. Right. But I look back on it fondly because of all the amount of time I got to spend with my wife, and our relationship was like, it was repaired. We had no choice. We was like, okay, do you want to you argue about stupid shit? Well, look, man, we got things that are bigger in front of us that we got to band together as humans and as a family. But yeah, you know, we got this little glimpse into the reality of like, hey man, your fortunes aren't impenetrable, man. We can get in there and fuck your shit up, and you're not you don't get to, you know.
Like I feel like, you know, it kind of was nice to see that the tables got turned for a little bit, for like, you know, like the thing that was, you know, we had a lot of people that were out of work. There was like, up in Canada, I'm sure, Texas, I don't know the situation there, but up in Canada for sure, the drug supply got super poisonous, and we lost a lot of good friends. Like there was a lot of people that like overdosed during that time.
Yes.
There was a lot of fucked up shit going on, and like there was definitely no support put in to help these people. And, like that was the other side of things with like with the pandemic, that they kind of, where you kind of felt like, oh, okay, well, they still got the boot on our neck too with this shit,
Yeah,
because it was like the drugs got more synthetic, and people started to overdose a lot more. And that was
that shit is
definitely
terrifying.
totally, dude. So shout out to anyone who who's on the front line trying to help people in the addiction world and stuff like that, and just trying to keep people safe, because yeah, we lost a lot of really fucking a lot of sparkle people that were just like diamonds, and you
I've
just kind of,
lost a
yeah, no,
bunch of friends from that
totally.
stuff, man. I'm coming up on about like July will be 12 years sober for me, and I'm not
Mm,
like straight edge type sober. I'm just
yeah, yeah,
like I'm not. It's not a crutch anymore. I don't do anything anymore. But like I
right,
wouldn't say that I forbid myself to do it. I just don't. I
right,
probably partake in some hallucinogens or something more than
totally.
anything else. But
Yeah, it's not like you're
if
just, it's like Christmas and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna just have a little
yeah, I'm not
stick
doing
of
eight
meth.
balls on Thanksgiving. You know what's funny, man, is you know how film? Are you a movie fan at all?
Yeah, I'm a big movie fan.
The music that you make with Homefront, it makes me feel like movies from the 80s and 90s made me feel.
Oh
Like
yeah,
there's a different vibe to them, man. Like at the end of the movie, everybody was just trying to have a good time. Whereas now you have all these really serious, really dark, really deep, really layered movies, which are great. I love them.
sure,
But man, sometimes I just want to watch fucking Breakfast Club
sure,
and
totally,
say anything and fucking
sure,
talk to the girl.
yeah.
Your music makes me feel like that, and I appreciate it. And I had to tell you that that's what your music
Sick.
makes me feel like, man. It's fucking awesome,
Well,
dude.
it's funny. Like, again, I think it was just because we're working with sounds that I'd never worked with previous to this band. But film was such a big part of our like setup. Like we were talking about like movies like in the 80s. If you want to talk, for us, it would be like, like Thief, and like movies like
Yes,
To Live and Die in LA. And we watch those flicks, and it's just like the soundtracks are such a big part of the vibe of the film. So
dude. Thief
like
is
I
so
love,
good.
like in Thief, like when you're watching that driving scene with the hood of the car, and there's like, the lights going, the neon lights
Oh,
from
dude.
Chicago going off. And it's just like, to me, when I see that, or like you watch like Year of the Dragon, or that Michael Douglas movie, fucking Black Rain. You're just
Oh, I
like
love
you're
Black Rain.
and you're seeing like all the lights and like the neon stuff of Japan, like kind
Yeah,
of, and it's just like it creates like, I mean, Blade Runner is like a perfect example of that.
dude. We are on the
Where you,
same wavelength, my
but
friend. I
but
tell
the
you that.
but for me, it was just always like I love that. And so like when I'm hearing like when we were making songs, and Clint's like got like a synth line going, and I can picture a film with it, that's when I know we're on to something that I'm really happy with. So like for when we did Games of Power, I think some of the street stuff came from, there's a French movie that we were such a big fan of called La Haine. And when you watch La Haine, it was like it was just one of those films where it's just like everything, the black and white, you're seeing like a lot of the cameras pushing. It's got like a real street Paris like street vibe to it. And I think that was kind of the soundtrack for when we would like make records. If like I was like, if I can picture Vincent Cassell staring into the
That guy's great.
like a mirror, fuck yeah. And that's like one of his first movies, and he's just like, it's just like these guys hanging out on a day after this big riot that has gone in their tenement, and
Oh,
there's like a missing handgun, and these three guys just go hanging out, like just like doing their thing all day. And it's just like it's funny. It's like a very streetwise like kind of hangout flick, like.
oh, I'm watching that
And
tonight, bro.
dude, it fucking rules. La Haine, you'll love it. It's
Oh,
got the vibe. It,
yeah, I'm
yeah,
100% watching that
yeah,
because,
and I think
dude,
for us, like when we made the music, when we were making music, I was just thinking of like that kind of like, okay, like the city stuff, like cameras pushing through, like
yeah,
like Thief
the
too, like
neon noir,
cars. Yeah, fuck, I love that shit. And so
dude.
having that as the background, I think makes the sound of what we do kind of come to life. Is what I'm kind of getting at.
I I haven't ever felt this connected cerebrally with
Hmm.
somebody so quickly because that's how I listen to music. I'll sit down
Right.
and daydream and I'll think of
Fuck yeah.
movies that I want the music to be in, or I'll think of a scene in my head that like, oh, I wish I could make a movie because this song would fit
Fuck
so
yeah.
perfect in a scene like this. And you mentioned in Thief and Black Rain is crazy because we literally covered those movies on that podcast
Hell yeah.
recently.
Nice.
That's the kind of shit we all like to
Yeah,
watch. Me
yeah.
and my best friends, man, and I like a lot of Korean stuff.
Fuck
But
yeah.
This Lahane movie, I'm watching that today, man. That
Yeah,
sounds
dude.
amazing.
Fucking, I think you're gonna be fucking thoroughly impressed. Like,
I'm so excited.
just
I'm
the
so excited.
cinematography in that movie, the performances, like the whole vibe. Like, I feel like there's another one that I would strongly suggest for anyone who's looking. But there's a British movie that came out. It got banned for a long time, and then it got recently put out on Blu-ray. Probably, and like Criterion
Okay,
did like a showing of it. The movie Babylon. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but it's
hold
a
on.
British movie about young guys that are like in the dance hall scene, and they're dealing with the National Front and all the racist like
Wait, is this a
vibes
recent
of
movie?
no, it's from like 82, I think. The
Okay,
movie's from 82, but it got like it was kind of like lost to the world for a long time. And then
okay. I'll
it
write
kind
that
of
one
came
down
out
too.
again in like I would say 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, it is from 1980.
Yeah. And it's again, if you want to talk about a really great movie where the soundtrack is it's all like dub and dance hall and stuff like that, and seeing it all like be the soundtrack of like young people that are kind of in like a you know kind of like an urban hell in a way, and you just realize that music is an escape for everybody. Like, this is what we have, this is our way of coping with this shit. And so
100%.
like, so when I see a movie like that, or watch Lahane, or watch Do the Right Thing or whatever, it's just like these
Yeah.
movies have like this vibe where it's just like music is always going to be the soundtrack to how I feel living in a city, or like traveling around, getting to go to all these different cities. And it's something that for me, I think that's why I like the drums, and like the rhythm of what we do with Homefront is such a big, that's the jump off point always. It's like we got to get that right before we put on everything else to get the whole vibe, you know what I mean?
Well, the music's very cinematic, specifically like your music. But man, that what a awesome conversation this has been so far, man.
No.
I really appreciate like getting to know like deep cut movies because like it goes the same with music and movies, man. You'll meet somebody and you'll discover something that if you had never talked to that person, you would have never discovered this, and it's something that you'll ultimately hold very near and dear to your heart. I've got many bands that I never would have heard of had it not been for whatever person I was
Of
hanging out
course.
with at the time. And uh, I
Well,
really like,
think about being when you were younger, and like trying to find out about bands. Like, I don't know again what it's like in Houston, but in Edmonton, definitely not the stream where everyone was coming through. So
oh, dude, no,
you would get like Maximum Rock and Roll. You're just like looking at studying a guy's jacket, and like
I mean
like I
that's
remember just being like, oh
exactly
fuck, okay, I think that says GBH. I'm like,
right,
okay, and then
right.
you go. But it's funny, like in our and we're in our neck of the woods, it'd be so funny that you would find out about these bands, but you were always, the jump off point was like weird records like that are like deeper in their catalog. You're like, oh yeah,
Yes.
DRI. I know them from Four of a Kind. That is my, or Thrash
Well,
Zone. But like then you hear dealing with it when you're like way older, and you're like, holy shit, this is so sick. But the start off point was like a weird album, like
that is exactly how it is down here in Houston. We missed out on so many bands because we were
yeah.
just so far away. But I'm telling you, dude, we are on the same exact wavelength tonight, man. It's weird because that's
Mm.
exactly how it happened with the Clash. I didn't
Yeah,
like
oh,
the
hell yeah.
Clash until like 3 months ago because
Really.
no, like for real, bro. I
Yeah,
filmed my entire experience with it because it blew my mind. I had never heard "Give Them Enough Rope," and I'd only
right,
heard self-titled once. I was introduced to them with Combat Rock, and if you're
right,
listening to like Rancid and the Unseen, and you get given Combat Rock,
dude.
you're not going to resonate with that,
So
and so I just didn't really jam it.
It's so funny. When I was a kid, I was probably like in grade 5 or grade 6, like I was 10 or 11, And like I'm starting to like figure out like what punk is. Like, you know, my mom showed me what, like, we would listen to Ramones or something. I got it from a gas station. We listen to Sex, like the classics. But like the Clash, you would see the name and like, you know, and everything. And I remember my mom had like, she was like, oh yeah, you should hear the Clash. And I was just like, okay. So I go to the library, like, which was like near our house.
Let's
And I'm
go.
like, okay, I'm going to go get a tape out and I'll fucking listen to it or whatever. So I go there and I look up the Clash and it gives us discography. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, obviously I'm going to start with combat rock because that sounds the coolest. Like, fucking send it to me now, you know? And I remember going back to the library and they gave us a call. They give you a phone call to be like, oh, your tape's here or whatever. And they're like, hey, your tape's here. Sorry, combat rock didn't show up, but the self-titled showed up. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, I don't really know one from the other. And I remember just like taking home and like I put it on and it was obviously like Jenny Jones is like kicking. And I'm like, whoa, this is fucking sick. However, if that library hadn't fucked up and gave me like combat rock first, and like, you know, I'd be like, what? This just sounds like fucking.
That is exactly my experience. It's not library, but I went to a record store and was like, hey, I like Rancid. What do you got for me? And I'm like 13 or 14 years old. He's like, the Clash. I think I asked him for the Clash because I'd been told like, hey, Rancid likes this band. What can I get? And he's like, here. He didn't. I don't think he even knew. He's just like, here, this is what we got. And I'm like, all right, I bought it. Dude, I was so mad, dude. I was like, what the fuck is this shit?
Totally. But you know what's funny is like now I can like, I'll listen to combat rock and I'll be like, man, fucking like Radio Clash and like Straight to Hell are two like monster songs. Like in there, and like Straight to Hell might be.
I'm still not there yet.
I think the song Straight to Hell might be one of their best songs ever written, but I will argue that the MIA version of Paper Planes is fucking sick too. So I'm like,
oh, dude,
yeah. I don't know. Like I had a big thing with the Clash like at a younger age because like it was just like hitting me at the right time. But as I got older, I felt like out of all the classic like first wave stuff, I find like like the Clash I don't listen to them as much anymore as I did at one point. Like I still like when I hear a song,
you still appreciate it, but you're not choosing it all the time.
Yeah, but like I said, if I hear like Radio Clash or I hear like even Rock the Casbah, I hear it on the radio all the time, and I'm always just like, fuck, this is a fucking jam, you know? Like I can get behind it a little bit more now than I could when I was a kid. But like from that early era, I think the bands that still really stick with me is like when I heard The Damned for the first time, I was just like obsessed. And Sex Pistols, like Nevermind the Bollocks, I could still put on, and I still think it's a fucking one of the best records ever made.
Dude, Misfits, hot take, I think it's underrated.
I kind of hear people fucking like talk shit about Nevermind the Bollocks, and I'm like, you're fucked. It's a perfect album. Like every fucking thing about that album is perfect. Or like, you know, same with Misfits. Like I think from the first second I heard the Misfits, I knew this band was always going to be a big part of my life, and I've never strayed too far without having some Danzig recording near me, like where it's either Misfits, Samhain, or Danzig. I can fucking listen to it all and I love it all, you know. And like but I think that like for me it was just like the Clash was like definitely hit me hard at one point, and then it's just kind of like I like it, but it's not totally my like favorite shit, you know.
It's weird, man. I my favorite band is Rancid, so obviously I should have liked the Clash. Had I gotten to the right records, I would.
I was just gonna say, I'm like, that's such a weird thing that you wouldn't have gotten.
I never, dude. People used to give me shit for that, like all the way up until like a few months ago. But like when I heard "Given Up Rope" for the first time, it was like 15 seconds into the first song. I paused it and just shook my head, and I was like, oh, I just went there. Yeah, I got lost on the way. I just
Safe European Home is like one.
Yeah, I was like, well, son of a bitch, dude.
Dude, that tune though is fucking large and in charge. Like the thing about that record is like when it's funny, it's like they'll have like Safe European Home, and you'll have like Stay Free, which is like when you hear that song, you're like, so good. But then you'll have songs like, then there's the other side of the Clash where I'm like, Julie and the Drug Squad. I'm like, holy fuck, this is a bad song. I'm always trying to like, I can't rush fast enough to like change that song.
Dude,
like,
hey, look,
there's a couple tunes on that record. I'm like, oh god, fucking make it stop. But then
I don't think I agree with that one, but I think it's hilarious, dude.
Then you'll hear Tommy Gun, and you're like all of a sudden
oh
punching a hole through the wall. You know, it's
yeah,
just
dude,
like
Tommy Gunn's fucking. That's
dude,
a 10.
Yeah, there's some fucking major league bangers on that record, and like, it's funny though too. Like the production on that record is like, I love that the guitars are so crazy compared to like.
It sounds really nice,
dude, big time, and so, yeah.
Are you a vinyl guy?
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Like I've been collecting records since I was just a young guy. So I've been like pretty much just always been like I really love singles. Like I love 45s. Like I'm a big single head. Like I love LPs and stuff, but it's just like for me
that's cool. I don't know very many people that like this 45s over the 12 inch.
I don't know if I prefer them. I just
you just really enjoy them.
I love like it's like different artwork a lot of times from the single that's on an album. But I also just love that it's just like
this randomly showed up recently. It's a Clash white label promo from '79.
Groovy Times and Gate and what's it? Gates of the West.
Yeah, you got a memory on you, boy.
Well, that's fucking crazy. Single is a banger. Like,
is that a Chin Chin shirt?
You better believe it, baby.
Dude, I've been sitting here looking at it going, dude, I was like, I don't want to ask because I'm going to feel stupid if it's not. I was like, but I got to find out because I got their one of their LPs. I don't know how many they had, but I got one with yellow on it.
Oh, like, so, okay. So that's, that one was put out by our label, the one that put out the Homefront records. So big shout out to Paco.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
And yeah, he's got like a side label going called Sealed Records. And I can't remember if it's on Sealed Records or not, but anyway, they put out that Crying Vein, which is all the B-sides of the Chin Chin records. And honestly, fuck, is that one of my favorite records in the last, like, I don't know when he, like, there's certain reissues that just like fucking hit me so good. And that one, like, it's just the versions of the songs that are on there are so fucking good. And like,
That's awesome.
I definitely love Chin Chin. I think that's another band that like really inspires me when I think about songs because their melodies are so cool. I love the reverb soaked like guitars and everything just has this cool vibe.
Kind of addicted to that sound right now.
Yeah. And they're Swiss. So like, you know, something's going on in Switzerland where they fucking the melodies are just fucking coming out of the water, you know.
Have you heard Bullshit Detector or Empire Down?
Oh yeah. Hell yeah. Bullshit Detector, they're that like I have the record and like I actually got it on this last trip that we were.
Oh, nice. And yeah, I've known Richard for 20 years. I've known Ryan from Liberty and Justice for 22 years. Like those are the guys I grew up with. But if you shoot me a mailing address, I'll send you. I'm putting out the next 2 7-inches for Bullshit Detector, and they're like on the way to me right now. So I'm very excited. I'll send you a couple of them if you want.
That's sick. I didn't realize you were doing records as well.
Yeah, like yeah. I've got there's a band called Before Dawn that.
Hell yeah! Shout out to Dave Martinez.
So yeah, I'm doing their EP with them, man. Like, dude, I'm so glad you know who they are because I'm fucking in love with their music. It's
we were supposed to play with them actually in.
Oh, that's right.
In
L.A.
and they canceled. So
something happened with the bass player. I think something happened with the bass player. I'm pretty sure. I remember that text thread with me and them because I was all excited about that show for them.
But I saw Dave. He came to our LA show, like when we played with Long Knife and Hot Load, and it was good seeing him. Like I hadn't seen him in years.
That's amazing, man. I'm so glad
I knew him. I knew him from back in the Wednesday Night Hero days when we played.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah,
as we played a bunch of shows with Clip 45, and
that makes a lot of sense.
And it was like, you know, like that was definitely our boner punk days, and it was like those guys are fucking beauties. So like it's good to still catch up with Dave once in a while. And actually, I just sent him a text this morning because of all that the fires in LA and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So big heart, you know, blast going out to all the LA people right now. Like
right. No, I got friends I've been messaging.
Yeah, man. And it's just like we come like in Alberta, it gets so dry up here too in the last couple of years that we've had a bunch of fires and we lost like small little towns and stuff like that. But it's
Damn.
just like, so we can relate, but seeing it on this level, seeing it in a city
Right.
like LA is like, holy shit.
And there's like nothing they can do to stop it. It's
No,
just
man.
like this
They don't even have
roaring
fucking, and they don't even have water.
water.
You know,
Yeah.
like fucking
It's
billionaires
wild.
own the fucking water. So it's just like, what the fuck? How are they going to put it
Right.
out?
It's
So,
nuts, man.
dude,
But
it's brutal. And like, you know, like it's one thing for like the, you know, seeing some of these, you know, people who are losing their houses in the Palisades or whatever that might be one of 3 houses that they own.
right.
Like they'll be okay, but I my heart really goes out to like a lot of the guys that are struggling, just like, you know, to
Yeah,
have
the guy that
a
has the
fucking place.
3-bedroom
Yeah,
house that him and his whole family live in, and they
totally.
lost
And like
it.
their
Yeah.
pets and like all that shit.
Oh,
Like, man,
dude,
it's
yeah.
fucking brutal.
Yeah, I
So
can't.
I definitely I gotta send a lot of love to LA to like, especially like now that you mentioned Dave. I just made me think about that. I texted him this morning to make sure he was okay. And same with
Yeah.
Pete from Global Threat, another guy I'm really close with. Just
Yeah, I
making
don't know
sure
Pete yet.
he's fucking sick. And just
Global
shout out
Threat's
to him.
amazing, or
Oh hell
was.
yeah. Fuck yeah.
So is Perry. All those guys are super rad,
Totally.
man. I
That's why I was choked that we didn't get to that they pulled from the show. I think it was also in Anaheim too. Like it was funny. It was like the show was at Chain Reaction, which was like I played there in like 2003 or something like that with the Casualties, like way back in the and like it was kind of like this venue that was out of the, you know, straight edge venue that was kind of like out in Anaheim, so it was kind of away from. And so yeah, it was just like it was a trip going back there. Like we played there, and I'm like, fuck, I haven't been here in like
So that's where y'all
15,
played
20
when you
years.
went
Yeah,
recently.
yeah, and that was
Dude,
supposed to be with Before Dawn.
awesome, man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that's a good
Fucking
club.
totally rules. So I guess, well, okay, as a Rancid fan, are you more team Rancid or would you say Operation Ivy? What are you thinking? Like for me,
I have to
I've
go
never really-
Rancid. I mean, it's based solely on the fact that you've got 10 albums versus 1. And Rancid's the first punk band I ever heard, very first punk band I ever saw. Actually, the Ramones were the first one I ever saw because
Oh,
they played
hell yeah.
guitar, but I watched the Ramones and then I watched
never got to
Rancid
see
after that.
Ramones. I never got to see
I was
Ramones,
very,
but-
very lucky, man. I didn't really understand the gravity of what I was watching, but
Totally.
it's a hard question. I kind of lump it all in together, if I'm honest with you. Whenever I did my Rancid collection video recently, I included all my Operation Ivy stuff. So, like, to me, it's all one big thing. Like, I think Rancid, I think the Transplants, I think Rancid, I think Lars and the Bastards, I still just kind of think Rancid. Like, it's all.
Right. It's
I'm
all
a
just
big
one,
fan of.
one
Yeah,
big thing.
it's to me, but like, based solely on the fact that you have 10 albums and I think 9 of them are almost perfect. Like, I have to go Rancid with that, but it's not an easy discussion. And on any given day, I could just not be in the mood for that and want to hear Operation Ivy.
Would you ever say, like, is there ever a chance that they're going to do an Op Ivy reunion?
Yo, I actually asked him that, and so
Yeah.
he said that they've actually almost done it, and he did say that it wasn't off the table, but it would have to come organically. I know that they did that Doom Regulator band, him and Tim Armstrong. And they got 2 other dudes I'm not familiar with that are in that band with them, and they have a record coming out this year. So,
oh, cool.
So I personally just want that to come out. I don't want an Op Ivy reunion because that band is it's so linked with like youth as far as like the feeling, the lyrics, everything, and they're different people now. Tim and Jesse and Matt Freeman, they're different people. So I don't know how. I would love to see it. I would pay to go do it. I would fly to go watch it. I just think that you would have these expectations, and I don't know how they could possibly be met.
I would say that would probably be the same for me if it came to like Minor Threat. Like Minor Threat, probably they're like one of my, you know, like that's like my childhood, one of my first bands that I love. But I'm actually really happy knowing that it's always just going to be in my mind. I think it's cool that they've never really gone back to do it, and it's like it's cool because it's just like a time and a place, and it was like a feeling, and it was so organic and real. And I think that's like, to me, I think that's always like the thing about like reunions is sometimes you're like, it's cool, just, you know, I like to think that if it's happening and I can go see it, then fuck yeah. But if knowing that I'll never see Joy Division or I'll never see Minor Threat, I'm cool with.
Yeah,
I love the music
it's
so
a weird
much, you know,
because there's the part of me that is like, yeah, I kind of want to see that, but I'm like, but do I? Like, why I have a perfect idea in my head. I've seen a couple of their videos that were like actually recorded pretty well back in the late 80s. I don't know that I need to have like all of that ruined because maybe one of them's got a cold, a really like a really bad cold, and they don't perform very well. And now, like, who the fuck knows, man? So,
right.
I was almost had that same feeling when I went to go interview him. Like, do I
Right.
really want to do this? So I was like, man. But I'd already met him once in Vegas, and I was like, dude, he was really nice. And I was like, okay, I'd be okay. But I got there, and I almost panicked. I almost freaked out and didn't do it because I was sitting outside of his apartment, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Okay, so first of all, what did he know you were coming to do the interview, or were you just standing outside of his house, like
No, so
climbing the wall, getting into the fucking like?
I didn't tell him I was coming. I just showed up and was like, "Yo, Domino's," and he was like, "What? I don't like pizza." And I was like, "Open the door, motherfucker!"
You just like leaned over and you're like, "You are such a good sleeper. I love
yeah,
how you sleep."
he
He's
didn't
like,
know I was
"What the
standing
fuck are
there. That's how I got all my B-roll. He was just snoring away. No,
Yeah,
I went and I met him in Vegas. He was doing a walkthrough of the punk rock museum, and I met him, and then we had a like thread of emails going back and forth, and he had something that I could help with. I helped him with it, and he was like, "Hey, man, thank you for that. If you'd like to do an interview, I'll do one for you." And I was like, "Holy shit!" And I mean, he even said in the email like, "Hey, you know that I don't do this often, so I will do this for your help." And I was like,
Oh, that's sick.
"Fucking hey, man!" And so we just linked up. It was cool, and I'm not bothering the guy. I'm not trying to be like his homie or anything like that. It was just super nice that he was like very,
Can I live
very.
here? Yeah,
Dude,
like,
I tried.
I'll live in your apartment for like.
He
Just
wasn't
2
very
months.
receptive to the idea of me sleeping over, so I was like, "All right," but
I'll give you some space. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I already had like a cot, and he was just like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I don't know, man. I thought for the
showing up to
weekend."
someone's house with a cot is a fucking power move, though. Like
It
it's like
really
knocking
is.
on the door. He's like, "Who are you?" Well, I just
Yeah.
want to do an interview with you. And is it cool if I bring my cot inside?
Right.
Like,
I just wanted to stay the night. You got dinner on the stove yet? Like, I'm
cool.
hungry.
He's like, "What are you eating?" And it's like, it smells pretty good. Like, can I
Like,
just have a couple
and then you give him a
bites?
bunch of like dietary restrictions. Like, I'm vegan and I'm allergic to a bunch of shit. Like, you good with that?
He's
Can you accommodate?
he's like, so is it still vegan if I spit it out of my mouth into your mouth? You're like, hell yeah.
Fucking all baby bird and shit.
Yeah, man.
Fucking what the bro, where what?
You're like, yeah, man. This fucking this is real.
Yeah, he was very, very nice, man. And
Cool.
it was cool to meet somebody that is like, I'm not gonna say hero because I feel like that's kind of a little bit like too on the nose. Like, he's just like a guy I admire. And I was like, it was cool to meet him and be like, fuck, dude, he was nice, man. Like,
Yeah.
I got a list of 5 people that I've always wanted to interview, and he's one of them. And I got to scratch that off, and like, it was a little emotional, man. Like, I'm not gonna I can be as corny about it. Oh, dude, like, man, I was born into not this, dude. I am so fortunate to have this in my life, dude. I lost friends. My dad died when I was young. I was poor as fuck. I was forced to go to church all the time. Like, I wasn't supposed to be here. I was stubborn enough to make this happen, and I've got an amazing wife who's very supportive of all this. So, like, I'm fortunate, and I know that. And I was able to it was emotional because, like, how many days did I sit outside dope sick, and the only reason I got through it was because of bands like Operation Ivy and Rancid. A lot of days. And there's another band called Born to Lose out of Austin, and to me they're huge. But to the singer, he's like, yeah, we're just like a punk band, but like, I've gotten to become his friend, and he's one of my dearest friends now. And like, that to me is just as important. So it's like, it's, my journey is very up and down, man. I could go on for hours. I'm not gonna, but I just the shit I've done and had to deal with, like, plenty of people have had worse. But like, it's been a wild ride, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, I hear you on that. I mean, it's funny even just getting the perspective of, like, things that you loved when you were a kid, and just like how the rest of the world like perceives it. Like, I remember, that band EMF, they have that song Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay, so like,
but
yeah. So when I was a kid, so in our hometown, we have a football team, like a CFL team. Like,
okay,
I know you're a deep CFL love.
I mean, yeah, like, it's better than the NFL, but whatever.
Oh, fuck yeah! It's like the quality of the game is better. The broadcast, like, totally. But it's like,
I mean, every time they dunk the ball. No, I'm kidding, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
but buddy, the fucking fields are longer, the fucking wider. It's at 3 downs. But like,
wait, is it really?
It is. It's weird.
Interesting. It's just, I don't watch any sports except baseball and fighting.
But anyway, the thing that's funny about it was like, so like, in our city we had the Edmonton Eskimos. They're now called the Edmonton Elks. But like, at the time, the Edmonton Eskimos, and it was like yellow and green was their green and gold was kind of like their the colors thing.
Okay.
And so I remember when I was a kid, I seen this like EMF video, and like unbelievable. And he's got the hat on sideways, and he's like rocking this hat. I'm like, holy fuck, he knows. He like, of course, he's wearing an Eskimo's hat. This is fucking totally the way it is. And I remember like years down, like down, like I was talking with a friend of mine, and EMF came up, and I was like, yeah, man, you know that video where he's wearing an Eskimo's hat? He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's not wearing an Eskimo's hat.
What was it, like a Green Bay Packers hat or some shit?
It was an athletics hat, like an Oakland Athletics, like, which totally makes sense. Because like, why the fuck would he be wearing an Edmonton Eskimo's hat? But in my mind, I'm like, dude, everybody in the world knows who fucking Gizmo Williams is. Like, of course.
That's
like,
my favorite thing that I've heard this year so far. That's amazing. Yeah, so, dude, yeah. It was funny because like, so I've almost died a couple of times from different things, right? One of them was narcotics, right? So like when I was young and I was listening to Operation Ivy, and then I got into being like, let's say 18, 19 years old, and I was already out on my own for a couple of years by then, and I wasn't doing good. I was headed down a very dark path. And then like I got hooked on dope in my 20s, right? So I'm doing that for like 9-10 years. If you'd have told me back then, you're going to make it to 40, I wouldn't have believed you. And if you'd have said, hey man, you're going to get to go talk to Jesse Michaels, like this guy that's gotten you through, I would have been like, what are you talking? So that's why it was so like, I was like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm actually accomplishing a goal that I set for myself. Like, that's a lofty goal to set. Like, I'm going to go bother this dude who's like a notorious introvert. And like, so it was cool, man. I'm very happy. I'm happy and fortunate, dude.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Well, I mean, that's like the thing that makes life worth living, right? Is like
100%.
It's just like it doing stuff like that and getting to be creative and having fun and like having some laughs with some pals, like that's all it is, man. To the rest of it is just doom scrolling and fucking bullshit and like watching like fucking the world burn to death. It's just like fuck this. So it's just nice to just like be able to just kind of
that's exactly what it is.
Take a pivot and just fucking talk some trash. So that's
it's the simplicity of it all. It's like it's important, but it's so simple. And like I like to have this weird like grand idea that I'm leaving like this legacy behind to my kids because I've got 3 kids, and I'm like, they don't give a shit about this. Like my daughter's like, well, I want to go get a unicorn, and I'm like, oh, okay. I got to hang out with the Pennywise guy, and she's like, what? I'm like, never mind. She's like, Olivia Rodrigo? No, wrong person. Sorry.
That I do find that to be really sick though. At the same time, like my partner, her daughter, like we live with, like she's she's in junior high, and she's like, at first she was like, yeah man, chin like X-ray specs, like this fucking rules.
I love X-ray specs.
I know, but I was like, oh, it's so sick. But now she's like, nah, I'm into fucking like Tyler the Creator and like Travis Scott, and you're like, oh, that's fucking sick. So like to me, it's just sick. Like she's just like,
no, be your own person,
being her own person, and I love that. Like it's just like, to me, that's like what makes it super cool. So I mean,
oh dude, I've taken my kids to shows. They've experienced it. I'm proud of that. I'm happy. They can do whatever they want to do that makes them happy. I'm 100% on board, man. Like,
totally.
I just want them to be smiling, and I would prefer if they kept their room clean. That's about as far as other than, dude, I can't handle it, man. It fucking blows my mind. Oh, it drives me nuts. The fucking dirty room shit, bro. I can't. What the fuck, dude?
Man, I come from a long line of fucking orders, so I'm like,
my wife does.
I'm like, oh, there's a nice stack of receipts. I can't get rid of those.
Dude, no, that's my wife. Yeah,
I'm like, there's a fucking coupon for a car wash from like
2004.
2004. That was a great year car wash. I can't get rid of that, obviously. Like, I gotta remember that. Oh, it's been expired for 30 years. I'm fucking no problem. I got a frame of vintage, just full all my favorite receipts from
1998.
All my favorite meals from like 2003. That's one poster. Then I got another one. It's like all my favorite coupons from like the Mr. Entertainment book that had like all the different mall coupons.
That's amazing.
You wouldn't have an idea what the fuck I'm talking about.
I don't.
Very specific.
No, but I'm thinking of like mall coupons that I used to sell when I was a kid, and I feel like it probably relates to that in some way, shape, or form. But I mean, she's my yin and my yang, dude. Like her chaos and my organization, they fit together and they make a really nice, pretty symbol. Nice. If you have a few more minutes, man, it's up to you. I'd really like to hear about Wednesday Night Heroes a little bit if you have the time.
Sure. Like, like that's
just kind of like how the band came about. Like, what were your influences and just kind of
Well,
like
I think with
yeah.
with Wednesday Night Heroes, it was funny because that band was started by my brother, and him and these there was like these. I remember when I was a kid and I was like going to high school. My brother had just finished. He's 3 years older than me,
Okay.
and he had like a yearbook. And I remember scanning his yearbook before I went to school to figure out who the punks were in the school, like
Let's
seeing
go.
who I'd be like, oh, okay, this guy's got mohawks, this guy's like whatever, you know. And two of those guys, like I remember from the book, were like good friends with my older brother. And so when I was in grade 10, or sorry, 10th grade in American,
Yes,
what
same
am I doing?
difference.
Anyway, they were like they were already in talks about doing a band, and at the time, like we were all like getting on a big like UK kick. Like we were loving like GBH and Verukers and like Peter and the Test Tube Babies. Like, and
Okay.
I think that was kind of like the jump off point for us. Like we were like we wanted to have kind of like the funny lyrics of like Peter and Test Tube Babies, but we wanted the vibe to be like GBH or Verukers, and I think that was kind of how it started. And then
Okay.
as and then like at that time, punk was like locally shows were so big. Like it would be like we would play and be like a couple hundred people, then it kind of just kept growing out of that. And then when we started going on the road, there was like this huge punk scene that was just kind of developing in the early 2000s. That was just like tons of kids at shows, and
That's awesome.
and it was just like it was such a great opportunity for me to like again get to travel. We made a lot of friends that were like in that I'm still friends with today out of that, you know, and it was just like one of those things where it was like yeah, we were playing with like the riffs, and then we were playing with the casualties and like the briefs, and like it was just fucking
Oh, I
sick.
love the briefs, dude.
Oh yeah, me too, man. And then I remember I think for me, I think the big change happened when around 2005, 2006, we were like we were definitely still doing like the street punk kind of like pogo thing, and it was cool. But I remember the big shift that was kind of happening where like I also had a deep love for like US hardcore, and there was a
I
lot
knew
of
that was
really
coming.
and there was just such a big shift, and like bands like Government Warning started coming out, Career Suicide from Canada, um Annihilation Time, like where I was just like,
Ooh.
and I was just like, holy fuck, man, this shit is just like next level. And I remember we were like trying to get into that with Direct Control and stuff like that, and I think that was kind of like where we kind of saw the down stroke for us was as a band, was just like there was just shit going on, and I just kind of felt like, okay, this might be a good time for us to like call it a day. Like we all kind of hit a certain age, and it was just like it was a very enjoyable thing for me to do, and it taught me a lot about being in a band and about touring, about being in a band with a sibling, you know, like
Right. Yeah,
being
that's
in a band with
different.
a brother is
Yeah.
just like, you know, you definitely, and like, you know, my brother, he's like, he brought me into all of this shit. Like he brought me into punk. He brought me into all this stuff. Without him, like I owe him like a forever debt for it, you know. But it was definitely like being in a band together where we're both pushing and wanting to get our thing across. It was just like can be like, you know, it was like water and oil together at the same time. It's like, yeah, it's like it's not mixing in the right way, and it was just like so I think like we toured a lot, we got to see a lot, and we got to put out records, which was the first experience of doing that. And
Hell yeah.
it was like a fuck, I loved it. It was an awesome time. But it definitely, as someone who just like is keep wants to, like, you know, when I look at bands like Minor Threat and I just think about like how they, like Ian MacKaye just like kept pushing ahead. That's like kind of how I like to think about it too. Is just like I just want to keep moving forward and developing into something. So we went from Wednesday Night Heroes. Then I did a band called No Problem that was shortly after that. which was like more kind of Germs, kind of had
Nice.
that vibe. DOA was definitely a big influence on that.
Hell yeah.
And then from that, getting into Homefront. So it just kind of had like the progression of these three bands for me was just like, I think it really helped me develop as what I'm like on stage, develop what chances I want to take. And it also made me think about like how I just don't want to be stagnant and just be pigeonholed into like one thing. I just want to
Hell
just
yeah.
fucking just do my thing. And just like, you know, like when I was a little kid, I remember like rap was such a big thing. Like rap came out at like for me when I was in like grade 2, and I remember hearing like rap tracks and like Public Enemy for the first time, and just like thinking like, holy fuck, like this is, you know, this is like what I'm listening to this on the radio. It's really cool. But then like when I heard punk, it just like I was obsessed, and it just took me forever. But it's funny, like everything that I liked, I still somehow find it again. So it's like, you know, rap has always been a big part of rap, and hip hop has always been a big part of my flavor too. And same with like, so it's just like, there's just so much music out there, you know? And I just think that it's just like,
yeah.
And it's like, and as someone like yourself collecting records, you're just like, you know, when you're a kid, it's always just like the few, you hit the punk sections, you hit the used punk sections, you hit the metal, whatever. But then like as things you get older, you start hitting different parts of the record store. And now it's just like I get super hyped on like, yeah, it could be like LA electro funk. Like I could be like listening to Egyptian Lover, or I'm listening to Africa Bambaataa or something like that, or Ghetto Boys. And then then the same listening session, I'm now also throwing on like Camera Silence, or I'm listening to fucking, you know, like or to get into harder stuff. Like I'm like want to listen to Crumbsuckers or Crucifix or something like that. It's just like, to me, it's like I said earlier, it's just like my evolution as a music listener and my evolution as someone who makes music. It all comes down to the fact that it's just like, you got to have an open mind, and you just got to keep going ahead, and just go like with what you like, not what other people like. And you don't have to have them, if they look down their nose at what you like, then fine. Who cares? Life's too short,
right,
to try to be down with that person. It's just like, yeah, whatever.
100%.
We might disagree on that, but we might agree on other stuff. But it's just like, for me, it's just like, it's important to just like, don't be afraid to check those different corners of the record store. If you hear something that's just fucking cool, it's just like, you never know. Could be something that just really inspires you. Like the other day, like I was just like, because we're making a new Homefront record, and so I'm in a heavy listening mode where I'm listening to lots of music to kind of get like ideas and stuff to kind of bring to it. And a lot of times, like I was listening to Link Ray the other day, and I was just like listening to some of the songs, and I'm like listening to the bass and the drums, and I'm like, how, if that was an electronic bass and an electronic drums, like if like bass synth and a drum machine going, and there was guitar over top, it fucking sounds so sick. And then you're like, oh yeah, Suicide pretty much did that. And like, right. You know, there's bands like that. And so it's just like, makes it, again, opens your mind into a whole other thing. So I think
definitely a spiral. Sorry.
No, but I just would like, what I was just going to get at was that I'm just like, for anyone out there who's just like, if you feel like you're in a creative fucking, like you're stuck creatively and your tires are spinning, just pivot a little. You never know what's out there. Next thing you know, you're adding a little flavor to something that you're already good at doing. And then having that little thing makes it your own, and people will be like, wow, that's fucking shit rules. Or they'll be like, dude, what the fuck were you doing with this? Why did you add
right?
Why did you add these two together? This was a horrible idea. But it's just like the experimentation. It's like, why not? Like,
no, you have to experiment with things. Get out of your comfort zone a little bit. It's
fuck yeah.
I've discovered like a little bit of post-punk and new wave stuff that I never would have listened to if it wasn't for Cold Away music that I've been listening to.
Of course.
And then going back and listening to The Clash, I discovered that I like the band The Vibrators and The Boys quite a bit.
Fucking right.
So
man.
like
the Boys
are bands.
The Boys are fantastic, man. That's one.
Yes.
That's one of the bands from like when I was a kid. I still fucking.
I love them and the Vibrators a lot.
Dude,
They're both really good.
Vibrators is sick as fuck.
Perfect album type shit.
Yeah, like the song "Destroy," where it's like, and it's got that little like the little fucking fucking love that song.
Man, I have like such a long list of things I want to listen to like all at the same time. It's impossible. How do you pronounce that band? You said, is it Camera Silent? How do you say it?
Camera Silence.
Silence. Okay, so I made a whole video about that band, and I pronounced their name wrong the whole time. That's cool. Oh, I don't really care that much, but
but that's like the classic, like, you know, like I remember like it's just like the classic, you know, how Americans say French words. So if you call it Camera Silence, I'm like, be like, hell yeah.
I think I said silence is what I said. But
I mean, it's just fucking same shit. Like, it's,
their story is just so crazy,
dude. That story is insane. That should be a fucking movie.
I did a whole video on it, and they have a movie called Killing Zoe. Have you heard of that movie? That movie was inspired by those events.
No way. That makes sense because there were total fuck ups in that movie too. Like, they're all like heroin addicts, and you know, that'd be sick if the singer from Camera Silence was like the safe guy. Oh, and he like lives at the end, you know.
Man, that guy.
His story is insane. Like, because he goes to Spain and he's like living.
Well, he was like free, and he was free out of there for like 30 years, and then he had contracted the AIDS virus, and like then he gets all his paperwork in order, and then like dies accomplished. It's like, what the fuck, dude? It absolutely should be a movie.
I mean, it's cool too because like I think he had, I think he was like feeling some sort of like I'd heard this somewhere where it was something to do with like he found out he had a son.
So he had a son, and he felt. Yeah, I probably don't know all the details as well, but from what I learned, looking into this, is that he wanted to be there and have a relationship with his oldest son, and he had another kid too, but he also just wanted to not have to hide. He's like, man, I've been hiding all these years, and I couldn't do things, I couldn't go anywhere, I couldn't do it because it's really very restricting living like that, and that's what he wanted to accomplish. And then when he comes forth and tells him, hey, I'm this guy, the government's like, oh, that was so long ago, we're just going to give you like a slap on the wrist. So he didn't even really get in much trouble. It's just it's such a beautiful story because it's like these guys who I can relate to, you know, in a very deep way. And I'm like, oh, there is some hope out there. You know, it's a weird way to look at it like that, but there's some hope out there because this guy was able to like make it out alive. Not, I mean, obviously, but like
he lived. Dude, he got out of the fucking heroin days. Like, survived there. You know, and
ran a record store.
Dude, and like the heroin days, like back then, like especially with that crew that he was rolling with, sounded so insane. So I know, good for him for surviving for as long as he did, you know. And again, he left behind Reality, which is like fucking such a perfect record, you know. Another one that's like, I mean, I know you probably listen to Rick's, but like,
I love that band.
Rick's has a new single which has the drum machine on it, and fuck, is it wicked? Like,
wait, really?
Yeah, it's called like. Yeah, it's came out last year.
Oh, okay. I probably do know. I think I do know what something.
It's like a blue cover, has like
yeah. It's got like the outline of the guy on it.
Yeah. It's fucking,
I have that.
That is a 10 out of 10 single.
It
like the
really
production is so fucking good. Like Maxime, like production.
I love that. I love that band.
And like, dude. But I love that they're now like here's a perfect example of what we're talking about. They went from hard ass, like a guy comes from like hardcore playing whatever.
Yes.
Then he goes into oi, but so it's like really hard. Kind of, it's like the French version of 86 mentality or something when they first start. But then as they go on, it's just like they kind of got to a point where it's like, well, what else are you going to do from this point? And then they add the drum machine to it, and it's a whole new flavor. And I just tip my hat to those guys. Like, they fucking made me very happy because that was such an awesome fucking record, and I love French Oi, and
me too.
They just like knocked it out of the park with that single, and it gives a lot of hope for like, again, like Béton Armé, Poison Ruin, Puffer, like gives a really a lot of hope to like this new wave of stuff that's just like guys that are playing Oi music, but they're doing it in a total like, you know.
Oh, I'm obsessed with it, man. I've been listening to it for like 3 years now. And I'm going to see, is it Béton Armé?
Yeah. They're on tour with Poison Ruin.
So they're playing in LA in March. My birthday is March 10th, and I'm going out that same weekend. And I get to see them play with, they're going to play with Mess, bro.
Oh hell yeah, Mess are another beautiful band. Mess, like that split they did with the Chisel. There's a song there's a Mess tune on there called "Don't Look Back." One of the best songs written in the last fucking 20 years, man. Like,
dude,
and I love
show.
Fuck, they're ridiculous, beautiful band, and yeah, man, shout out to those guys too. Like,
hell
anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, we could go on for going on, but
I love it, man. Dude, we very clearly like
group.
a lot of the same stuff, man. I'm very, very happy and appreciative. I'm happy to get to meet you and very appreciative of your time, man. I really love your music.
We got the new one. We're working on the new one. We're halfway done tracking. So
nice.
Yeah. So hopefully
summertime maybe, or thinking later in the year.
Probably like the way how slow things are going. I feel it'll probably be like either winter. It'll be like either like if everything goes well, November. That would be sick.
Okay, but, like just later in the year, maybe not even until next year then.
Yeah, so, maybe. Who knows?
Well, I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to that, man. Before we get out of here, you're from Canada. Give me like the 5 Canadian bands outside of Homefront that people need to be listening to right now.
Okay, that like current bands, or just any.
Give me a couple. Give me a couple current.
Okay, I'll give you 5 current ones.
Okay.
Number 1, we've talked about them already a bunch. I'm gonna say Béton Armé.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, so those are the homies. I fucking see them on tour. They're gonna have a new record coming out on La Vida, so they gotta be in your thoughts. Puffer, number 2. One of the best live shows you're ever gonna see. Béton Armé is also fucking killer live. So
I'm very excited for that.
I'm gonna go number 3. I'm gonna say Shit from Toronto.
Okay.
I'm just like, they don't play that often, but when they do, it is like so intense. It's so charged. It fucking like they got a ass kicking rhythm section, and their record that they put out last year on La Vida was one of my all-time. That's one of their best releases and one of my favorite records of 2024. So that would be on there. Number 4. I'm going to go with a different vibe. Okay. It's going to be this band called Puppet Wipes out of Calgary. Okay. And they're like, they're kind of on this, like, you never know where they're going with their sound, but lately it almost like they kind of have this Gang of Four vibe to it, but it's like mixed with Suburban Lawns and like lots of really kind of like quirky things and some of the best people ever. And so Puppet Wipes are sick. And for number 5, it's going to be hard because I have like maybe 3. I would
throw me out 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm chilling, dude.
I mean, Bootlicker and Chain Whip, we're going to put a thing next to them. Like those bands, you got to they're just so killer live. And then some other honorable mentions on that would be Schedule 1 Sick from Vancouver.
I don't know.
And then we'll say for the last one for honorable mentions will be our drummer's other band, Brass Lip, which is out of Calgary, him and his wife. And it's just like pretty bouncy, like just really cool female fronted punk.
Hell yeah.
And they kind of have like I mean, I hate to say it because maybe they covered an Action Pack song at one point, but they kind of have that vibe a little bit, but not totally. Like that's not what they're going for. It's just that would be like where I kind of Sydney's voice kind of reminds me of that. But anyway,
that's awesome.
That would be my list of some Canadian bands to check, and there's other ones too that I'm totally forgetting. Negative Charge from Winnipeg. Just to give a shout out to Winnipeg, like there's a really great Winnipeg scene going on right now, and yeah, so and then in Edmonton, another band you should check out is called Languid. They're gonna have a new record that's gonna come out.
I think I've heard them.
They kind of sound like they have that like they kind of remind me of like bands like Meanwhile. Okay. It's kind of like really noisy guitars, but it's like a heavy rhythm section and fucking ass kicking. Them and Bootlicker on a set would be like dream Canadian gigs.
Dude, Bootlickers, like I want to see them live because their recordings don't do it for me. The songwriting I like, but the recordings I'm not really into right now.
Live is so fucking powerful, man. Like the marching beats, and then it's just like it's sick. It's almost like if sometimes I hear some of that stuff when they do the weird like military breakdowns, and it's like, whoa, it sounds like Boston Strangler or something like that, and then it's just gets so fucking but it's still like a D-beat band, so they got this. Yeah, they're great. I love seeing them, and they're lovely people. All these bands that I mentioned, the people in all of these bands are like fucking diamonds. So
Hell yeah.
I don't know. Canada's got some
Dude, Canada's
jams
rocking and
coming
rolling
now.
right now, dude. Like
So,
a lot
yeah,
of stuff
man.
out of Canada, a lot of stuff out of Texas, a lot of stuff out of France. Like there's a lot of these
Fuck
like
yeah.
little like localized communities of bands that are just bringing
Always,
tons
man.
and tons of good shit, man.
Fuck yeah.
Have you heard Repair? I think they're from Canada.
No, I haven't actually.
They're like almost like beat down hardcore kind of
Okay.
like Judge kind of a little faster.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sick.
they're good, man. I've talked to those dudes a few times. They're super nice.
Nice.
But yeah, man. Last question before I go. How did you come up with the name Homefront? Does it mean anything, or is it just a name you guys thought sounded nice?
No, it does. It actually does mean something. We okay, so again, where we're from, it's kind of like Alberta's kind of like Texas but it's like the Texas of Canada, like oil refineries, like you know, like it's very
awesome.
and like our city, Edmonton, is like very working class. Like a lot of guys work up in the in trades and stuff like that. So we have a very right wing government in our province, just probably similar to Texas.
Yes.
And
yes.
so at the time, like it was particularly, I mean, it's fucking bad now. Like I hate our fucking provincial government. But it so for us, when we kind of came up with the band name, it was kind of like the whole idea was like, it's like kind of like my war, like the whole like Black Flag, like my war, but it's like,
yeah,
this is our home. This is our home, and this is our like kind of battlefield. So it's just kind of like, I think for us, it was just kind of like saying like, you know, if you're going to make any sort of change, if you're going to make any sort of noise, you know, you got to start with your own community and start with your own city and start with like the people around you. And so like that to me was the home front. And that was kind of like where the band name came from, was just like our idea of us being like in a, like kind of in a battlefield where it's like our community versus the government and like against our own, like, you know, just trying to make our lives, have a little bit more meaning with our like being uplifted by our own community kind of thing. And that's kind of what that means. That's why the first record was called Think of a Lie. And the lie for us was just like that, you know, them exploiting all our industry, like pulling oil out of the ground and fucking polluting all the shit and destroying our earth and destroying all this stuff, leading to climate change, which is why LA's on fire and why fucking Alberta is on fire. It's just like, and using that shit for like, you know, funding bullshit wars overseas and stuff like that. It's just like, exactly. So I think that was kind of like where we came from, was just like, this is our war and this is our home and this will be like our battlefront in a way. So this is kind of like what we're trying to do, is just like uplift our own people. And I get energized by our own community. I get energized by seeing like these frontline workers having to do shit like with, you know, the fentanyl stuff that's in the streets, and seeing these people fucking busting their ass and they're getting no support. And it's like a never ending fucking typhoonish shit.
Working 16 hours straight as a nurse, and people are sexually harassing you, and like your boss is a shithead, you're not getting paid enough. Like, yeah, dude, those people deserve way more than
so it's just like, you know, and then also the cost of living so high. It's just like, you know, it goes on and on, and it goes on and on. And so like the whole thing of you know, like we had the cover on the first record was like the Alberta rose, which is like the flower of our province.
Okay, cool.
And it's got oil on it, and that's kind of like, so in our own
I like
beauty, it's just like we're using, it's like, it looks like blood because that's like the blood of our ground, and it's just like, you know, destroying our own land, and it's killing us. Like, I remember there was like I think there's a I can't remember, there was like maybe it was a Dead Prez record, but anyway, there was a speech on the record from this thinker, and I'm not sure who it is. I just kind of remember the point that he was talking about. And it was like, the point was talking about like hunters up in the Arctic that were like putting blades in the ice and having the blade out of the ice, and they would put like, they would bait the blade with like blood and stuff like that. And like, so a wolf will smell the blood, so they'll come up to this blade and they start licking it, and then there's just like they're licking the blade and they don't realize that it's like, oh yeah, it's so good, but then they're like, their own blood's getting mixed into it, and there's just a licking, and the more they like it, the more they're cutting themselves, and the more they're kind of going back and forth, and eventually it kills himself. And that's kind of like it's just kind of like saying like the fucking blade in the snow is like, that's oppression, that's white power, that's fucking, colonization, that's the shit that's trying to like, makes you think that this is what you want and just kills you in the process. So that's kind of what our whole base point is for like the home front, and just kind of like being up against that kind of imperial bullshit. So
that's amazing. That's honestly, it's kind of what I was thinking. Not that deep. I was thinking it might mean something along those lines. But when you said the flower with the oil, I this is a pop quiz for your movie brain.
Okay.
I thought in my head, I immediately thought, symbolism, and I thought symbology, and then the word you meant was symbolism. Do you know what movie that's from?
I don't know.
Willem Dafoe in Boondock Saints, when he's like, that dumbass cop's like, symbology, and he's like, the word you were looking for was symbolism. And every time I hear that word, I think symbolism. Anyways, man, your art design on your records is beautiful. It matches your sound really well.
Big shout out to the artist. The artist's name was Ewan Retallick.
I wanted to point that out. I wanted to make a point to say that at some point today, was that I really like the direction that your art goes with your music. Well, the visual art goes with the music. I like the colors, the imagery. It's awesome. Your logo is great, man. I bought some shirts and shit. I really enjoy your band. I'm very privileged to know you, man. I appreciate your time tonight.
Well, hey, I'm privileged to be able to talk with you, man. So
hell yeah, dude.
It means a lot, man. So thanks for taking the time.
100%, man. I'll reach back out when the new record comes out. If you have time, we'll do it again.
Fuck yeah,
awesome,
sounds great, man.
Hey, everybody, thank you so much for your time. Check out Homefront. Go see live shows later. All right, brothers, man. Be good.
Yeah, man. Peace.
See you, man. Thanks, dude.